Hey guys, I'm back with another sim racing hardware review, this time with the Qubic System's BT-1, which is installed on this RKF cockpit from my friends at Racecraft. In case you're unaware, belt tensioning systems like the BT-1 aim to recreate the forces on your body that are applied by a safety harness. When you're strapped into a race car, one of the most physical aspects of driving is being manhandled by your harness as it straps you into the seat and holds you in place while the car underneath you changes velocity. And that's something I miss a lot from my racing days a few years ago. Belt tensioners are usually one of the last pieces of equipment that you would add to your cockpit, and the RKF that this system is mounted to is pretty much fully spec'd. It's built with 120mm profiles, there's reinforcement struts on the wheel deck, it uses a simucube wheelbase, simucube active pedals, Sigma Integral DK2 motion, a SimCore wheel and dash display, an EP lap timer, a wind simulator system, and a butt kicker as well. Without the belt tensioner on this rig, you'd get awesome feel through the steering and pedals. The butt kicker would give you engine vibrations and curb sensations, and the motion system would give you information on bumps, pitch and roll. But no recreation of sustained G-forces, which is what the belt tensioner system is aiming to do. The Qubic System's BT1 retails for over $3,000, which makes it quite an expensive piece of equipment, but let's be honest, if you're thinking about buying this gear, you probably have a fully upgraded rig already, probably with motion, so your cockpit's already costing you well over 5 figures. So with that in mind, I'm not really going to look into the price of the BT1 too closely, I just want to see what it does well and what it can do better. Having a closer look at the system now, we can see that it's a pretty clean setup. It has a black sheet metal chassis. There's a red LED at the back, which I don't know what it does when I'm actually racing. I guess we'll find out together. It turns out that when you hit the brakes, it glows bright red like the brake lights on your car. I don't think the red LED lights up for any other effects. And that glowing side-to-side Knight Rider display when the machine is at idle doesn't run when you're driving normally. But I did spot that at very high speed corners like this upcoming left-hander, some blue LEDs on the left side would light up, and I'm not certain what that's supposed to indicate, if I'm being honest. Looking to the mounting brackets now, and we can see that they're pretty standard brackets, but there's a lot of mounting holes on there. That's going to give you a lot of flexibility with where you mount this system onto your cockpit. And then looking underneath the system here, we can see that there's 2 cables, one for power and one for data. The installation was handled by the guys at Racecraft, so the cable management, the setup, all of that was done by them. But it's a pretty tidy job, and it looks like Qubic Systems made it pretty easy for them to do that. Looking at the belts now, this bottom section is actually part of the Qubic Systems unit, so that goes into the machine and the motors in there do their magic. There's a plate here where you can thread through any harness that you want. The guys at Racecraft here have used a sparco unit. It's black, so it blends in pretty seamlessly. If we look up the top here at the eye holes for the harnesses, these little protectors are part of the Qubic System kit, but these rollers at the back, these were custom built by Racecraft to get a more appropriate angle back rather than straight down to the machine. So that's something that I would probably like to see Qubic Systems offer some kind of kit to angle correct the harnesses, since the only logical place to put the belt tensioner system is going to be on the back of the cockpit. Ideally, that system would probably be floating in the back up here, but that's not really a practical place to mount things. Of course, we're going to put the system to the test now on track. So we're in the F3 at Zolder, and when I first started up the system, my expectation would be that when I dive under the brakes, it's going to strap me in and it's going to feel like I'm, wanting to fall forward out of the chair, but it's saving me from that. And straight away, yeah, we do get that real strapped into the seat feel. But my first impressions were that there was possibly a bit of latency to the feedback from the BT1. But I went into the software settings and everything was at default. So everything was at 1.0. And so with a little bit of tweaking to the sharpness and to the gain of certain effects, that really helped to take away any idea of latency at all. It's very responsive. And as I was tuning it up and down, it quickly became pretty obvious that the BT1 can pull you harder into the seat than you would ever want. And I think that's a good thing because it means that you can just tune it to your liking and it'll potentially be too strong and you can just wind it down, which is much better than a system that's not strong enough. Now, aside from this here, where it pulls you in under brakes, I was surprised at how effective the lateral G's simulation was. So as I'm going around this right-hander, the main feedback is going through the left belt, and as I go through the left one here, the right belt is the one that goes. And that was a really immersive bit of feedback that I was very happy to see. But it's not just braking and turning that the BT-1 can give you feedback on. It does engine vibrations. Whoa, whoa. All right, so we're back on track, and as I was saying, the system isn't just about braking and turning, even though it does those really well. If you go into the settings, you can see that there's a whole lot of other parameters that you can enable, some of them which are on by default and some that aren't. So you've got things like engine RPMs, engine vibrations, bumps, upshifts and downshifts. Me personally, I didn't like the upshift tug. That was activated by default and it felt really unnatural to have the belts tug on every upshift. But on the downshift, that felt really good, probably because it's combined with the braking. Just got to focus through this series of corners. Now, that being said, this rig with its butt kicker and the Sigma Integral DK2s can also do haptic feedback for things like gear shift and curbs as well. So when you've got a rig that's got all the fruit, then you're going to get all the feedback. And so one of the things that I did was I switched off the Sigma Integral motion so I would see what it would be like on a static rig with the belt tensioner. And my sensation, my initial impressions when I had the motion off and the belt tensioner on was that something was missing. And it reminded me a lot of what it felt like when I was reviewing the Sigma Integral DK6, which is a fantastic motion system, and then when I just turned it off and was using a static rig again. Because the movement you get from the motion system goes a long way to giving you the simulator experience, and the belt tensioner is the cherry on top. With just the belt tensioner and a rig that didn't move, it didn't feel like I was being thrown into the seat by the harness as the car was diving on the brakes. What it would feel like was just that I'm driving a static rig and there's some guy just tugging at my belts for some reason. It doesn't feel like a simulator without the motion. And I think that reinforces what I came to understand is the typical equipment upgrade path, which is have motion before you add on a belt tensioner to the rig. That being said though, racing around with the motion system on and the belt tensioner off, well, that's no fun anymore. I think having had the belt tensioner add that extra level of realism kind of spoils you a little bit. And if you're in the market for one of these and you've got the money, then I think you should treat yourself. I didn't do any unboxing or hardware or software setup, so I can't comment on that. But I was very pleased with the overall user experience and the ease of tuning. I always felt safe driving with the unit installed, even when I intentionally disconnected the buckle mid-race. The belts retract gently, and I actually thought all force feedback was disabled, but in the video, you can see the gear shift effects are still coming through. All things considered, I had a pretty good time with the BT-1. I think it's a good system. The only thing that I would ask for more would be some inclusions to make it easier to get the straps mounted in the right orientation to give you the best feeling on your bucket seat. Now, as I did mention earlier in the video, I do think that the belt tensioner system really comes alive with a motion system underneath it, and I personally wouldn't have the belt tensioner without a motion system. And a thought came to mind: the cost of the belt tensioning system is roughly the cost of one of the motion legs as well. So Sigma Integral sell 3 post kits as well as 4 post kits, and for the cost of one 4-post kit, you're basically looking at about the same as a 3-post kit with the belt tensioner system. So that's an interesting consideration for your purchasing decisions. Money no object, of course, get the 4-post and the belt tensioner system, but let me know what you guys would do in the comments. I hope the video has been useful to you, and as always, let me know what you think I can do better or what your thoughts are on the product, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks guys.